A bit of your childhood died today. Why was he so recognizable? I was thinking about this earlier today. So iconic, so transcendent with generations of people across the planet. Defined by all of these moments, Hogan knows best, which is why his death resonates with everyone today. His story isn't all glory. Walk down any street on the planet, people know the words Hulk Hogan. It is the emotion, whether if you love him or hate him, that resonates with me today is because Hulk Hogan passed away earlier today at the age of 71. 80s, 90s, pop culture, politics. Chances are, if you're at a bar today, if you're with your coworkers, with friends, family, whatever, you're bringing up Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea, who now has passed away. Why was he so recognizable? I was thinking about this earlier today. So iconic, so transcendent with generations of people across the planet, really. I mean, pick out a stage of his adult life, and it is relatable to someone somewhere. From WrestleMania to Thunderlips in Rocky III, some younger than me. One guy earlier today at the apartment said, Hogan knows best is what came up. Maybe you think of his recent public stage, the Republican National Convention. For me, it was the Attitude Era of WWE, and this was when he was at WCW, turning heel, forming the NWO, going from good guy to Hollywood Hogan. And his WrestleMania 18 match with The Rock, considered by many wrestling fans their favorite match, not for the art. I wouldn't judge that. I don't know. But for the spectacle, for the feeling, for what it represented. What does the name Hulk Hogan mean? It means something to someone somewhere, right? It gives you a moment, a time in your life, a place, a memory, a feeling. It evicts emotion. The red and yellow, the mustache, the blonde hair, the ripped shirt, a brother catchphrase, flexing, finger pointing. He was a megastar. And his legacy is the wrestling business as we know it, really. His life had flaws. He had major controversy. He hurt people. He's defined by all of these moments, which is why his death resonates with everyone today. It's important to acknowledge both the triumphs and the failures, because when you're famous, your mistakes are amplified. He was a character, yeah, but he was also, an icon. He was a silhouette, a symbol, and that's why he's recognized today. Let's hit some of his most iconic moments in the ring. WrestleMania. He was the centerpiece of WrestleMania. 1984, 85, I believe it was. I was just born. But the clips and highlights of Mr. T, WWF at the time becomes mainstream with Vince McMahon behind the scenes. WrestleMania 3 was the body slam heard around the world. You've got Hogan body slamming Andre the Giant. Nearly 100,000 people, 90-some-odd thousand people at the Pontiac Silverdome. You had WrestleMania 7 with the Ultimate Warrior, where Hogan lost, but he passed the torch there. And then you have WrestleMania 18 with The Rock and much more. Just the stare down alone was legendary. And then he crossed over to movies, TV. He certainly had the NWO, all the Hogan merchandise. He was wrestling's first true pop culture megastar with everything that he brought to the table. Here he is. Again, I think of, some will go back all the way to the 80s and think of, say your prayers, eat your vitamins. I remember getting into wrestling during the Attitude Era, wrestling's best era for me. And again, it's about the emotion, the feeling. That's why I always say with Major League Baseball, my favorite era is the steroid era of baseball because of what the feeling was like. I can go back in time and remember how much I cared. Here is Hulk Hogan with Chris Van Vliet on his podcast discussing turning heel.
was making really good money there, you know, guaranteed money, and I just wanted to keep things going the way they were, even though the red and yellow thing was starting to lose a little bit of luster. And it was getting old. And I saw, you know, Scott come out and I went, this is like a shoot, you know? And I'm watching this from LA. And then Big Kev came out and power bombed Eric to the table. I called Eric up and said, hey, I'm your third man. He goes, oh, thank God. Because we were going to go with Sting. I said, bro, you can't go with Sting. He's not WWF from head to toe. It's in my blood. I mean, I'm the guy.
The wherewithal to know to do it. You know, it extended his career, made him a ton of money. The spray paint, NW, all that. To think that was going to be Sting is crazy. Again, he was business. He knew the business. That was, 96 when he turns to the bad guy. And stunned everyone. You're watching your favorite guy spray paint the championship belt, trash talk with the fans, the sunglasses, wearing the black. He reinvented himself. It was brilliant. And it kicked off the Monday Night Wars. And then most recently, he's on stage at the Republican National Convention.
What happened last week when they took a shot at my hero and they tried to kill the next president of the United States? Enough was enough. And I said, let Trump-a-Mania run wild, brother. Let Trump-a-Mania rule again. Let Trump-a-Mania make America great again.
I mean, ripping off the shirt and everything. Rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. You know, his story isn't all glory. A decade or so ago, caught up, he had the leaked private recording that was filled with racist remarks. WWE removed him from all of their Hall of Fame stuff that they had on the website, I believe. He took a major hit with many people. We'll discuss that with Jonathan Coachman coming up a bit later in today's show. Later apologized, was reinstated by WWE into the Hall of Fame. But many fans still look at that and think, well, you know, I'm conflicted with how I feel about Hulk Hogan. That's fine to feel that way. But it is the emotion, whether you love him or hate him, that that resonates with me today is because it's a bit of your childhood that also died today. No one drew more eyes, sold tickets. Let's see, inspired people to get into the business, in the entertainment industry, whatever it was, than Hulk Hogan. Mentioned WrestleMania, but, you know, you can ask 10 people on the street, you know, name some professional wrestlers. Hulk Hogan's going to be at the top of that list for people. And that's with fans, with wrestlers, with promoters, with anybody that's in the superstar era of what is professional wrestling. Reaction to all this today. We have President Trump. We lost a great friend today, the Hulkster. Hulk Hogan was MAGA all the way, strong, tough, smart, but with the biggest heart. He gave an absolutely electric speech at the Republican National Convention that was one of the highlights of the entire week. He entertained fans from all over the world, and the cultural impact that he had was massive. To his wife, Sky, and family, give our warmest and best wishes and love. Hulk Hogan will be greatly missed. That sentiment has been echoed by many across the wrestling world. At 71 years old, he's old in wrestling terms. If you think about some of the ages that wrestlers are passing away, 71's old. And he had recently had back surgery that had him, according to reports, at home, laying on a hospital bed. And you had police and fire rescue called to his house earlier this morning, pronounced dead at the hospital once they got him, once they arrived at the hospital there in Florida. Here is Hulk Hogan on Impulsive, discussing just the wear and tear of that way of life and the surgeries.
No, I've had like 25 surgeries in the last 10 years.
That's
10 back surgeries. Nobody told me that gimmick, this stuff was fake, man. No, but before 10 back surgeries, both knees, both hips replaced, shoulders, everything. But at the end of the day, the equipment back in the day when I started wrestling in '77 was a little different than the rings and stuff you guys are working in now.
Totally.
Still wear and tear now. Man, I can't imagine having 25 surgeries in the last decade. There's no way that could be worth it, right? For Hulk Hogan, it was. But man, that's wear and tear times 25, to say the least. Ric Flair, he knows about the wear and tear. He reacted to the passing of Hulk Hogan and said he was absolutely shocked to hear about the passing. I think we all were. Hulk has been by my side since we started in the wrestling business, an incredible athlete, talent, friend, and father. Our friendship has meant the world to me. And he said he was one of the first to visit me when he was in the hospital with a 2% chance of living, and he prayed by my bedside. He also lent him money when Reed was sick. Reed, who passed away, Ric Flair's son. Hulkster, no one will ever compare to you. Rest in peace, my friend. Vince McMahon, certainly, everyone, I was wondering if we were hear from him. Here's his statement discussing the greatest WWE superstar of all time, someone who's loved, admired around the world. And he leaves us with one of his favorite expressions: train, take your vitamins, say your prayers. Today we pray for him. That from Vince McMahon. We have, let's see, Undertaker. Wrestling world lost a true legend. His contributions to our business are immeasurable, and for that I am appreciative. Thank you, Hulk Hogan. And Paul Triple H Levesque had a great statement, which you can read online. Of course, he's running things behind the scenes now for WWE, and it was Triple H that was also very instrumental in getting him back and reinstated in WWE, I believe. Says that larger than life, he had Terry Hulk Hogan Balea, architect of what it meant to be a superstar, a global sensation that inspired millions to work hard at whatever it was they wanted to accomplish, and take and a look that made him recognizable to fans around the world. That's the thing. Like, he doesn't have to say a word. Just walk down any street on the planet, and people know the words Hulk Hogan. So I remember him from the Attitude Era, the Monday Night Wars that kicked off with the NWO. Sean, in New York, do you let's get up to when you think Hulk Hogan? What era do you come from with his impact on pop culture? Is Sean with us? There he is.
I've seen a Hulk Hogan costume at every Halloween party I can remember in my life.
That's a great point.
And I'm not even a huge wrestling mark, but he's stood the test in time where someone says, I'm going to be Hulk this year, and they go and they're Hulk and they kill it. And everyone loves with the Hulk person party, the Hulk Hogan person at the party. Yeah,
that's a good one, because that's the thing too. You're not big in the wrestling. I'm not big now into it, but I was in the '90s. So I resonate when there are certain images I remember. You're right though. Anybody knows the red and yellow when you see the blonde hair and the mustache.
And it could be, a big fat waist or a jacked guy or a pretty girl. Anyone could be Hulk Hogan there. And it's kind of like, wow, Hulk Hogan's for everyone at these parties. And the wrestling fans are great. And they're also awful, but they're great when it comes to this stuff, because when they talk about wrestling and the childhood memories of wrestling, it's like they're talking about like their first dog and the reverence that they have for their favorite wrestler. And what though?
Chances are you were with a family member watching it, because it was huge with my dad's side of the family. They loved wrestling. Like their grandfather and that side loved it. And so it was just always on. And so whenever my dad, his kids are watching, Stone Cold Steve Austin pop some beers in the ring court, like that's fun for him because he's laughing at us the way that, he would, laugh at his dad for thinking it was real. You know what I mean? Like it's a memory that people can resonate with across, because you're interacting with someone else while you watch it.
He became ubiquitous also, where there was no reason for me to be, reciting brother and everything. What do I know about this guy? But he was there.
Yeah.
He was always there, and you're always doing the Hulk Hogan shtick, and it just, I don't know. He just lasts. The 24-inch pythons. That statement, it holds strongly in my meathead mind. It just everything about him. If you're like a young boy growing up in America, it clicks. Even if you don't like wrestling, it just kind of hits you in the pocket. We're like, wow, that guy is something. He made an impact.
Yeah. Wonder what the steroid world thinks of Hulk Hogan today. Like the vitamins. I love that the whole time it's like, I would just say your prayers, eat your vitamins, and then get jacked like Hulk Hogan.
71's a good run for them. I think it's a win in their camp for how hard it is.
You're right.
Professional wrestlers, they go early, they go often. The toll is like insurmountable. You get to the 70s, I think it's like a normal person making it to 100.
I tend to agree with you on that. Plus, I mean, you make the 70, man. It's a hard life. You've lived, more than half your life with problems to your back, your knees, all the surgeries. I mean, that's the thing. It's like it's glory, but there's a lot of just awful pain that you go through. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, they were taking real bumps. They coach. Real chairs, everything. It's doctored as much as it needs to be, and obviously everyone wants to see the blood and the explosions and the pyro. But when he was starting, it was just knees to ribs, and you're just getting dropped on a hard surface for 3 hours every night.
Still crazy to see him pick up and body slam Andre the Giant too. Nuts. Good stuff. Hey, did you watch Hogan Knows Best?
I have not seen Hogan Knows Best.
I had not thought about that show in 15 years, 20 years. It was brought up today. First thing, Hogan Knows Best. Whatever. Yeah.
And all the spinoffs. Everyone has an opinion on Hogan in that show, and he's got the family drama, his personal drama.
Yep.
He just completely expanded past being a wrestler or the alpha wrestler or just an icon. It was almost like Ozzy. Like Ozzy started as a real heavy metal guy that had a real cult following, and then he just became Ozzy, and everyone knows Ozzy.
Then he had he also had the reality show, just like Hogan Knows Best. Look at this. I'm sure he does. 5 discs. Hey, good stuff, Sean. I'm looking forward to talking with Jonathan Coachman later in the hour about the behind-the-scenes aspects of Hogan. He was there for it front and center for the Hogan and The Rock feud for WrestleMania 18. We'll get to that. Another Jonathan. Spells his name properly, by the way. Jonathan Coachman, the coach, with us. Coach, good to see you, man. Hope things are well.
Things are good. I'm just trying to figure out. I was just in Nashville like 3 weeks ago with the PFL, and I didn't. I thought I was going to get invited in studio, and didn't. But this will work for me. How are you today?
I'm great, man. You can come in studio anytime. Everyone has the open invite with the moonshine here.
All right.
Thank you for the time today. Of course, so we're discussing the passing of Hulk Hogan. A complicated one, legacy at that, which we'll get to. You were, correct me if I'm wrong, you're right in the thick of it with WWE at the time when he's having the feud with The Rock. Is this correct? In WrestleMania 18?
I had a really cool, unique view on the whole thing. Obviously, I was very young when he was a big star in the 80s, but I started in the WWE in my early 20s in 1999. And then I was actually a part of what many consider to be the biggest match of all time when you're talking about megastars. WrestleMania 18 in Toronto. I did a little skit with The Rock before the match, so I'm kind of tied in. But I've only had probably, Jonathan, 3 or 4 times in my entire career, which spanned well over a decade in the WWE, where I walked out onto the floor because you never want to be distracted because the fans are talking. But that one, I wanted to be out there. And it was the most amazing 45 minutes of my career, watching the fans watch these two icons, and then they changed the match because the fans wanted to cheer for Hulk Hogan and boo The Rock. So it was such a unique time to see the Hulk, who physically was not where he needed to be, and that was really the stretch for him to even go that long in a match. But it was a magical night, and I still look back on it as one of the highlights of my career.
Man, I pointed out the match because for me, that's what I think of. I think of Attitude Era. People go back to the 80s too. I was born in 84. I think of Attitude Era. So I'm thinking of 18 and what it meant at the time and everything that just happened with NWO with his career. And when you say the match, the hour or so that took place there in Toronto, you're not talking about the art of wrestling, are you? You're talking about the spectacle, the feeling, the vibe, the emotion, that what it represented. And I think that's important because that's exactly what people are thinking today with Hogan and his legacy.
That's what the wrestling business has always been. It's about building up to big moments, building up to big spectacles, and then having them pay off. And up until like the mid 90s or late 90s, Hogan was really the guy above and beyond anybody else. And then as he got into the 2000s and things started to happen and there was good and there was bad, being able to put that match together, and your words are awesome because I wanted to feel it. And I was a part of so many big moments in my career. My career was the Attitude Era, and there was no better time. And so I could list 10 times where the crowds were amazing, but when crowds showed up at that time, they showed up to see the stars. And when you brought back Hogan, who had been through the baby face, had been through the heel with the NWO, as you alluded to, and now he was at the tail end of when he could physically still go. If that match would not have happened then, Jonathan, I don't know that the match ever would have happened because Rock was at his prime at that point, and he had to give so much to Hogan to make that match believable. And then what was so shocking, they had worked on that match for weeks. They even set up a ring in the hotel that we would rent it out for the entire week. They had worked on it for so many hours. And then to walk into the ring with 80,000 or however many people were there and having to completely switch it, because there's certain things you can do as a good guy you can't do as a bad guy and vice versa. And for The Rock to stand there and people watch the match, they bark at each other for about 10 minutes. They weren't trash talking. Rock was telling them how to switch it up.
Oh.
So to me, it's the pinnacle of what our business is. I wrestled for 3 or 4 years. If I had to go 10 or 12 minutes, that was a long time for me. These guys, they held the crowd in the palm of their hand, and that was the greatness of Hulk Hogan, the character, and Hulk Hogan, the wrestler, for so many years.
Well, and then, shortly after that, he has the controversy where he's caught up in a leaked private recording. Yep. Filled with racist remarks. What was just from your point of view? I mean, you've got to be thinking about that today too. I mean, we all have. I mean, there's confliction with how we view Hulk Hogan, the man.
It's a great word, confliction. I just got done with. I have an afternoon radio show on Sirius XM, and as we were discussing how we were going to do it, I had to bring that up because as a black man in this business, it certainly affected me. And when I left ESPN in 2017, I went back to the WWE for just a short period of time. It just happened to be at that time was when they were expanding the business into Saudi Arabia. And because of those remarks, Hulk had been erased from everything WWE. And Saudi Arabia wanted him a part of that show. So they made him come in and apologize to the entire locker room. And I was in the room for that apology. And so I won't get into how he did it. I don't want to disparage his name today, but that is certainly a part of his history.
Yes.
And there are a lot of people who were there, and a lot of them were the black members of the locker room that were like, really? We're bringing this guy back after that, and we're going to make excuses for that. And then his apology basically was an excuse. So to see him be able to come back and at the end be a part of the Trump stuff, and that was awesome to see, because I never like to judge somebody off of one or two things. That one was extensive. And so certainly if we're being honest and we're telling the whole story, yes, you can revel in the greatness that was Hulk Hogan and the impact that he had on the wrestling business, but you also can't discount when you're telling that story, the things, and these are all things that he did to himself. Mm-hmm. It's not anything that we pushed on him. So certainly conflict is a great word.
Yeah, I mean, if not for that event in Saudi Arabia, maybe he never apologizes. Right?
I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah. And I think that's why some just still haven't have the forgiveness for him, to him. And I saw Mark Henry last week at SEC Media Days. Like, he was one of them that didn't like the fact that he was welcomed back. And many still aren't that way. We played some audio from him. He had 25 surgeries in the last decade. That's probably on the light side of things. I said this too, Coach. At 71, that's a life well lived in wrestling. I mean, at that age, I mean, that's sad to say, but he's old for the surgeries and the wear and tear and his career.
I've had so many friends that have passed away along the way from when I started in 99 till to now. It's hard to believe it's been 26 years. But for a guy like Hulk Hogan, you got to remember in the 80s, there's a lot of riding in cars. Imagine riding 800 to 1,000 miles a week. They were working 28, 29 days a month. House shows were gigantic back then. And then not to mention whatever else extracurricular they may have been doing at that time as well. That's certainly, and it was still a part of the business when I was in it. So I had the unique ability, though, and he always treated me great. So I need to say that. And I had this room on the road that I was in charge of doing the home video interviews, entertainment. Anybody that needed an interview, I would do them. And so I always had a big locker room. So Hulk found that out when he came back in the early 2000s. He didn't want to dress with everybody else. So he found out that I had my own room. So he came in and would dress like in the back in the shower. So we would have so many conversations about the 80s and you know, Rocky and the video games and the action figures. And I have to say that he's the one guy that not only elevated careers of guys like Macho Man and Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, Jake, all these guys. He did that. His star power did that. And I was able to get those stories from him, and then to get the eyewitness from WrestleMania 1, where fans like you or fans like myself, WrestleMania probably wouldn't even exist in its way that it is now if WrestleMania 1, which he was in the main event of, wouldn't have been pulled off. And there was a lot of things that happened that day. A lot of people don't know. He told me the entire story. It's such a fascinating world, and I'm honored to have been a part of it for so long and to be able to be around the icons and the big names of the business. Even Hulk Hogan, he had good things to him. There's no question about that. And I like to focus on those today as well.
Yeah, man. Just in at the end, I was just you had a view into him that normally no one's going to see. Everyone's going to say Hulk Hogan. You got Terry Bollea at times, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the different view from what you're talking about. Were they vastly different in terms of Hulk Hogan when he's got to be on all the time? You know, anytime he's out in public and someone says, "What you going to do?" He's got to be ready for it, and he was. And then there's Terry Bollea, who can let his guard down a little bit.
I would say backstage, and that's part of the reason I had the job, or the second job during the day that I did, because Vince McMahon was very paranoid, and he did not want regular people backstage. Even if you worked for a big show like Entertainment Tonight or Access Hollywood, you were not allowed backstage. So that's when you had the big stars that could let their guard down. And I remember towards the end, and this is 2002, 2003, something like that, he would come in and you'd watch him from afar, and he was hobbling and he could barely walk. And that's why I said I didn't know if that match was going to happen. Yeah. And sometimes in life, you got to dig deep and you say, you know what, I've got one more magical moment. I think my knees and my back can live one more. And his knees and back were really, really bad. And he'd come in and be carrying the bag. And if you would have taken a picture and putting it next to, you know, worn out wrestler, that would have been the picture of him. But then he'd come in and he'd sit down, and you could get him. And this is the case with a lot of the OGs, as I like to call them.
Okay.
If you get them going on memories that they do remember well, it's some of the most fascinating times that I've ever had. And you sit in a bar late at night, or you can kill 3 or 4 hours, no problem, listening to these guys talk about what it was back then and what they went through. Hell, when I started, we were on the road 4 or 5 days a week. And for a guy like Hulk, on top of what he did in the ring, you got to stay in shape. You got to be in the gym. And then you want to do so much outside of it. He was that guy. So you're taping movies, you're doing TV shows, you're doing commercials. Because remember, there's no social media, barely any cable television. He was busy and be gone for 6-8 weeks at a time. I don't think people can fathom what that life was like back then. And there were good habits, but it certainly festered a lot of bad habits too. But some people would say, and you said it, a life well lived. A lot of people would trade a lot of years to be able to live the life we lived in the WWE, and a life that Hulk Hogan lived for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean. I mean that in like the age,
of course,
of it. Jonathan Coachman, great perspective, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Which podcast would you like me to promote? Because you've got several of them.
Well, we have Coaching Company. That's our daily show, which is on Amazon Prime, Stadium, YouTube, and awesome. We do a lot of pro wrestling content too. The Coach and Bro Show, and then I have a brand new called Off the Ropes. We just launched for our pro wrestling channel, and there's never been a better time for it right now. So I was so honored they asked me to take the afternoon spot. So thank you for the promotion. But man, I'm just here to help, and I love doing what I'm doing right now. Probably the best time of my career, working with so many different great people. So thank you.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Appreciate you. There he is, Jonathan Coachman.